Let's look at her son's response to that. Jesus fruit. I wanted to beat Jesus from her lips. She called on him for everything. Like he was her sugar daddy and gonna solve all our problems. I was still high. Dope. I asked Mama for another $60. She said no. Mama ain't never said no to me before. I hit her. Her dumb ass just called on Jesus. Didn't ask me to stop. Didn't cry. Instead, she said, forgive my boy, Lord. Forgive Latrell, Lord. He knows not what he does. I didn't. I thought it was all a dream. I woke up in handcuffs with sobriety clung to my waist like a friend at a funeral. They said my drugs had murdered Mama. I called on Jesus like Mama did. He didn't answer me. So like Judah, I hung myself. True story. Poetry. Capturing the experience. It is that ineffable language. The language which we cannot speak. It's the soul's cry. And prose is not enough to capture it. Prose is not enough to express all of the emotions sometimes that are bottled up in us. Each one of us. A lot of men in here. A lot of males. I'm not always used to that in the classroom. But you got a lot of males in here. And I'm almost 50 years old. What I've learned even from men are socialized to pretend and to hide and to act like they don't have emotions. But I know you do. And you know you do. So my poetry class is open and I see a beeline of men coming in because it's a place to get out of their soul, the ineffable, the speechless, that which I can't say, that which I can't tell somebody else. So I employ the tools of poetry. The metaphors, the simile, the personifications. I employ the allegories, the illusions. I employ all of those tools of poetry that will allow me to sometimes even hide behind the words or hide behind the personification because I don't want to just bare my soul. Poetry allows me to give you that experience. I'm going to read some new stuff I've been working on. So I'll read a little more from the book, but this is work in progress. I find poetry everywhere. In my class, I teach that it's this. Father. Every student that takes my class, they walk around, you got father, you got father. And father is that raw materials, that brain. It's usually used when you're talking about livestock and stuff like that. But it is the raw material from our life. There's the hurt, the pain, the joy, happiness, and all of that. I don't have many happy poems, although I'm a very happy person. So my poems are usually dark and morbid. Because that usually is the part of life that people don't like to talk about. This is called And I Top. There was this foul Congress, a gathering of doctors whispering about Mama's condition. Don't utter the C word or say it aloud. Cancer. Carrying on its wings more crosses to bear. Now blood clots have traveled up Mama's leg, splitting in tubes to her lungs, and cancer is the subtext. And chemo has to now wait for Coumadin to labor like our laughter about memories stored up in basins of dirty water, mapping the miles that juxtapose where Mama is and where I type. Words are my habitual comfort. Phone calls are crumbs. And they don't satisfy my need to see her eye. And airplane tickets, I can't afford to buy another one. And gas is priced above my head, and I'm chained to a seat I've never known. Mama's hands too far to rub, gray strands holding to her aging scalp that I can't break. And my son, he prayed. I write, and I breathe. And I remember cups of coffee and Mama's contagious love for fresh white. Today my mother's a cancer survivor. This year, 2011, from January until June, we battled lung cancer. This was my way of articulating what was happening to her and what was happening to me. My mother lives in Florida, I live in Maryland, and I couldn't always get to her like I needed to, but I made a commitment that I would travel back and forth to take her to a chemo appointment. That was a lie. Plane tickets are not always where you need them to be, but every month I was there at those chemo appointments. But that's what poetry allowed me to do. Didn't have time to write a play. Didn't have time to write a short story about it. So what did I write? Poems. Just about anything. Any experience. And I certainly will write one about you guys sitting here in this room. Because I stand here in front of you as an African American woman. I brought an African American male with me, and I see one possible other. The rest of you, Caucasian. I'm having an experience right now. When I leave, I'll write about it. I'll write about your faces and their faces and the blood that flows through. And some of them, the blood seems to be stuck in their throat. I'm writing all over. And the half smiles and the coarse smiles, and then the ones who look at me with stern eyes. As if, who is this creature, who is this woman that stands before us, that was brought to us to talk to us about words in motion, about the moment of life. And even though we share this moment, I have no idea the experiences they are garnered. But together, in K219, we are community. Are we not? Together in this room at this time, we are community. In this space together, sharing. That's what poetry allows you to do. It is multi-dimensional. Unlike the essays you probably write, which is usually one-dimensional. Poetry is multi-dimensional. Here, you have an opportunity to stimulate the intellect. You have an opportunity to make the audience feel something. And then you employ the senses. See, smell, touch, taste. And then there's the imagination. How do I take words and arrange them in such a way that they're almost like music? It's kind of lulling you to sleep, rocking. Here's another piece I wrote. Sitting in my classroom, I also teach Speech 101, and a student was giving her speech about Baltimore. She had just moved from New York to Baltimore. And as she was speaking, I was sitting back there grading her performance, but at the same time, I'm being arrested. I'm being put in handcuffs. And I had to go home and do something with what